They all live together in this village. And these villages are very conservative and very traditional. They're Orthodox Jews. They keep the faith. They keep their religion. And people that step out of line in the family, clan, and tribe are an embarrassment. We'll talk about that as we press on. So Jesus goes back. Now, we would expect a homecoming parade, wouldn't we? You know, the triumphant teacher who's building an astonishing reputation in Capernaum. He's going to have a book signing thing at Barnes & Noble at Nazareth, and big crowd. There'll be a ticker tape parade or something. Instead, when he returns to his home, the people were mumbling and murmuring about him. So where did this take place? On the Sabbath day. On the Sabbath day, Jesus is teaching in the synagogue. Again, stop. Again, I say this all the time. Jesus is not Roman Catholic. He's not Lutheran. He's not Methodist. He's not a Christian. He's an Orthodox Jew. What do Jews do? Jews go to the synagogue on the Sabbath. What is a synagogue? Where you have 10 or more Jewish families, a minyan, you are required to start a synagogue. Well, what is a synagogue? It's like a Jewish community center where you teach the children Hebrew, where you have Torah scrolls are read and commented on, like we're doing here. We're reading the Bible, and then we have a sermon on it. And it's a place where the Jewish culture is passed on from one generation to another. So Nazareth had a synagogue. Jesus is a Jew. He goes to the synagogue and he's teaching. Stop. Why is Jesus teaching in the synagogue? He's teaching in the synagogue because when you get your bat mitzvah, that's for girls, bar mitzvah for boys, you have to stand up in front of the congregation, unroll the Torah scroll, read it in Hebrew, and then comment on it. It's kind of like confirmation in the Lutheran Church, except even more so. We have Jewish friends, right? So Jesus he's a person who is a Jewish male, of a member of the culture of the society. He is allowed to stand up and comment on the Torah scroll. Kind of like at a Quaker meeting, you know, where Quakers like sit there, when the Spirit moves, you stand up and you talk, so they don't have clergy like we do. So he, by virtue of his Jewishness, is invited to stand up and teach in the synagogue. Now, when he taught, they were astounded. Why were they astounded at his teaching? Ready? We know from reading other parts of the New Testament in the Gospels, it says, Jesus said, "You have heard it said from men of old, but I say unto you." You got that? That is a killer concept right there. Typically, when Jewish scholars comment, when you're in a synagogue, you stand up and you read from the Torah scroll and you will say, "This expert Rabbi so-and-so says this. This expert Rabbi so-and-so says that." This is called arguing from authority, right? But when Jesus talks, he says, "These people, you've heard what they've said. I say unto you." In other words, what is he doing? He's saying someone greater than these Jewish teachers is here in your midst. I'm giving you a direct voice from what God says. That's why they are astounded at what Jesus was saying. He's shocking what he's saying. Okay? He's saying, "I say unto you," not "these experts say unto you." So they're astounded. And they scratch their head and they go like this. Where did this man get all this? Where did this come from? Right? This wisdom that he has, this Sophia that he has. Who gave him this wisdom? And what deeds of power are done in his hands? In other words, they're perplexed in three ways. Who is this guy? Where did he get it from? He has power. Where did this power come from? And then they say this. Ready? I'm going to read the whole thing and then go back and unpack this, because this is the key section here. "Is this not the carpenter, the son of Mary, the brother of James and Joseph and Judas and Simon, and are not his sisters with us?" Stop. Well, I'm not sure. And they took offense at him. So let's start here. The word offense is the word scandal. Scandalon. They're scandalized at what Jesus said. Okay? So let's go back. Why is that? They say, "Is this not the carpenter?" Stop. Here's what you do. You draw a line like this. Okay? So downstairs is physics. Physics is downstairs. Upstairs is metaphysics. Right? So physical things are down here. Metaphysical things are upstairs. They're up there in the balcony. These people, when they look at Jesus, they don't see metaphysical stuff. Instead, they see physics only, down here only. What do we call these people in our society? These are secular people. Well, what do they? They look at the world, touch it, taste it, feel it, see it, hear it, smell it, that's it. They limit only to the 5 senses here. And if something they can't explain, they'll say it's a coincidence. They refuse to believe that God or the gods had anything to do with it. So they're limited down here, okay? Okay? So we would say, well, that's the tip of the iceberg. You know, maybe 1/7 of what you see is the physical world. You know, the 7/8 is the part that you don't see. That's the God part, right? So they're so busy looking down that they can't look up, right? Does that happen to us? Yeah, it does. I see a lot of people looking down at their iPhone, right? And what happens? They walk right off the edge of the cliff. They fall into the fountain. They walk in front of the train. They don't know, right? So they're so busy looking down, they don't look up and look around, right? So that's these people's problems. And they say things like this. Is this not a carpenter? Okay, now, is that a problem? Yeah, ready? Jesus was not a manufacturer of furniture, right? Typically, when you see the Jesus movies, right, they're okay to watch, but those movies are a launching pad for a discussion, a further discussion. So you think that Jesus has blonde hair and blue eyes and speaks with an English accent, a British accent, right? Well, no. And they always show it like young Jesus. What is he doing? He's working in the carpenter shop with Joseph. Okay, you hold the board, I'll plane it off, right? They're making a chair. They make furniture, right? Well, is that what Jesus did? Is he a carpenter? What do you do if you have a word you can't understand in the Bible? Look it up, right? Look it up. So you can do this online. Google the thing, carpenter, and do a little reading on it. The Greek word, Koine Greek word, is this. Tekton. Right? That's the Greek word, tekton. Oh, Pastor Mark, I don't understand it. It's so difficult for me to understand. Okay, ready? Let me break it down for you, right? You've heard of the word architect before? No, I never heard of that before. Architect, the guy that draws the building plans, right? The word arche means master or ruler. Tekton means builder. Master builder, that's a carpenter. That's an architect, master builder. The word tekton, you know this word, technology. Again, why do we love these boys? Tech nerds, that's why. Tech nerds, right? Tekton guys, right? So technology is the Greek word that means builder. Okay? So what did he do for a living? Right? When they translate it into German, Luther translates this word tekton into German. He says he's a Zimmerman. You ever know anybody named Zimmerman? That's German. It means carpenter, right? So it's not a carpenter who makes furniture, but it's a master builder. So now, Nancy, you've been to Israel, right? What do you see when you go to Galilee? A lot of rocks, right? Do you see like big stands of trees around like we have here? And you know, there's like lumberjacks cutting down wood, and they're making plywood and 2x4s, and so plenty of work, plenty of wood for Jesus and Joseph to make furniture out of. Is that what happens? No, basically there's no wood there. That's rocks. So he wasn't a carpenter, but he would have been a builder. So a stonemason, right? Like a general contractor guy. He might work in wood. Occasionally they would sack up rocks and put plaster on it, and then you have to build a frame around the door. Well, they might do that. They might take a couple pieces of precious wood that they could find and build a frame. But mostly he's a builder. Now, here's where it gets really fascinating. Do you ever hear of this before? Sepphoris? Right? That's a town. That's a city. Sepphoris? Well, what is that? Sepphoris is a city that's not mentioned in the New Testament. Well, then what do we care? Throw it away, right? No. All right. Follow me here. Sepphoris is a city that's 3.9 miles north of Nazareth. So 3.9 miles, that's walkable, isn't it? Right? We're about 4.5 miles out of the village of Rhinebeck. So you could technically walk to Rhinebeck from here. Right? 3.9 miles, Sepphoris. Nazareth is a Jewish village where Jesus lived. That's his hometown. Sepphoris is 3.5 miles north. Guess what they're doing here? This place was destroyed in 4 BC. Stop. What date do we use for the birth of Jesus? 7 BC. and Herod the Great died. There's a revolution. Judas the Galilean, not Judas Iscariot, Judas the Galilean did a revolution based in this city, Sepphoris. It was destroyed by the Romans. And those that weren't killed were sold into slavery. The place was destroyed. Herod Antipas, the son of Herod the Great, he rebuilt this place. A huge public works project. How big was it? This was a city of 30,000 people. A lot of money went into this. And how long did it take? Well, basically during Jesus' entire lifetime, Herod Antipas was removed from office in 39 AD. So during his entire life, this would have been a public works project. And where do you think Jesus and Joseph probably worked? Sepphoris, the Gentile city. So he was like a building guy, okay? Very, very important. So who else would have worked there? Well, the members of the family, clan, and tribe that live in the town of Nazareth. So the community worked there. It's like like sometimes you have the cement factories, plants over here, and there's like company housing. That's sort of what Nazareth probably would have been like. It's like company housing for the building project up in Sepphoris, okay? And it's never mentioned. It's never mentioned in the New Testament, which is fascinating because it was the capital of Upper Galilee. It's the capital of this whole region, okay? But it's not mentioned there. Now, so is this not the Tecton? Who is he? The son of Mary. See this? Is this a problem? The son of Mary is a problem. Why is that? Is it meant as a flattering thing, a compliment? No, this is a put down, right? He's been dissed here. This is a diss thing, disrespected. What do you mean? We can infer a couple things. First of all, Joseph is probably dead at this point, okay? So that makes Jesus, the oldest son, as the head of the family. So if someone said, well, what kind of a son is that Jesus anyway? He should be staying at home taking care of his mother and his family because Joseph is dead. He should be staying home and doing the family thing. Well, maybe that's why the people in Nazareth were a little upset with Jesus, right? He's shirking his responsibility. Instead, he's out doing the religion thing. He should be home here doing the Tecton thing and taking care of his family. That's his responsibility. So the son of Mary is an insult. Why is that? Do you think maybe the family, clan, and tribe members knew the story of Luke chapter 2? In those days, the decree went out from Caesar Augustus that all the world should be taxed. Yeah, they knew about the strange story of Jesus' birth, that Joseph was betrothed to Mary, and yet Mary was pregnant and the child. Yeah, in other words, what they're saying is he's the son of Mary. He's illegitimate. The proper Jewish way of referring to Jesus would have been, his name is Joshua, Yahweh saves, Joshua bar Joseph, Jesus, son of Joseph. Instead, he's called the son of Mary. That's a dig. That's a put down. He's illegitimate. Okay? So they say he's a carpenter, Tecton, and he's the son of Mary. Right? Now, stop. Let me tell one other quick thing about being a carpenter. Is a carpenter an honorable profession in our society? Yeah. Try hiring somebody to do some work around your house. There aren't any plumbers, electricians, carpenters. You know what I mean? It's a real problem now. Okay? But in our society, we honor work. That's because we're from Northern European people. We honor work. You know, honest day's work, honest day pay, all that kind of stuff. In the ancient world, they don't honor work. Why is that? In Greek and Greco-Roman society, who does work? Slaves and peasants work. People of high status hang around the town square and they do philosophy and they loaf around. You know, like Bard college students, right? Right? Yeah, that's what they don't do manual labor. Oh, heaven forbid I should pick up my underwear. Oh no, you can't do that. The serf will do that. The slaves will do that for me, right? So in other words, in the ancient world, labor is disrespected. So what are they telling him? They're saying, you're a slacker. You stepped out of line. You're supposed to get back to work because you're a nothing. You're a peasant. You're a laborer. You're not a roaming philosopher, a prophet. That's not you. No, you can't do that. Get back to work. See what's going on here? So it's a double put down. And they say to him, you know, look, who are you, right? Son of Mary, you are Jesus again. And who are your brothers? James, Joseph. Joseph is a hard word to say, but it means Joseph. Okay? So instead of saying Joseph, which would have been confusing to people, right? Because there's like Joseph and another Joseph and another. How many Marys are in the Bible? Like 7 Marys in the Bible. That's confusing, right? So James, Joseph, and Jude. See that name Jude? The name Jude is Judas. And the female form is Judith. So it means like Jew woman is Judith. Judas means Jew man. Okay? And Jude is shortened for Judas. Now, why would they do that? You can't have Jesus' brother named Judas, because in the New Testament, the ultimate bad guy is Judas Iscariot, who betrayed Jesus. The gospel writers never mix the chance. Whenever they say Judas Iscariot, they always put in the one who betrayed Jesus. They always have to like remind you that he's the villain. So this is a different Judas, okay? So you have James, that's Jacob, Jacobus, that's how you pronounce it. Joseph, Jude, and then Simon, and sisters. Stop. How many sisters? 1 sister? At least 2 sisters, because it's plural, right? 2 or more sisters. Now, stop. What are their names? You're right. They're not named. Why is that? Is it my fault? No, it's not my fault. Again, the Bible is a patriarchal document. Patriarchal society. Remember, Noah has 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And the 4 wives, they're not named. So we don't know Mrs. Noah, Mrs. Ham, Mrs. Shem, Mrs. Japheth. It's Shem, Ham, Japheth, Noah, and their wives. Same thing here. So the sisters aren't mentioned. Okay? So how about James? He wrote the book of James in the New Testament. He converted to Christianity later on, after the resurrection of Jesus. This Jude, he's converted to Christianity, again, after the resurrection. He writes the book of Jude. So you have the book of Jude and the book of James written by the brothers of Jesus. Okay? So we know who you are, right? You're the carpenter, the son of Mary, and you're the brother, and you have sisters. In other words, this is your orbit, right? You have to fit in to this orbit right here, right? This is where you are, down here, that's you. No upstairs stuff for you, mister, okay? They want to keep Jesus down here. Now, what's a life principle that you want to use? Ready? Never let your enemy define who you are. Got this? We go through life thinking, I have to be what my parents want me to be. I have to be what my boss thinks I should. I have to be what my wife or husband thinks I should be. I have to be what my friends think I should be. I am what my enemy defines me. No. You're a free person in Christ, right? In Christ, he kicks down the walls and the boundaries. You can be anything. You have unlimited potential. You're a free person in Christ, right? Well, they tried to take Jesus and shrink him, box him up, define him, redefine him, and put him back on the shelf where he belongs. The safe Jesus would be a Jesus who lived anonymously and did the tecton thing and took care of his mother and stayed in Nazareth and didn't raise a fuss. The status quo must be maintained at all costs. People that challenge the status quo, does the establishment, the elite people, do they appreciate it? No, they kill you. They kill you. You want to know why the Jewish religious leaders killed him when he went to Jerusalem? Because he didn't fit into the little box that they wanted to put him in. He's a deviant person. He breaks down the walls and does what God wants him to do, not what people expect him to do. You see that? And as a result, he slams against the wall. There's hostility, and there's resentment, and there's rejection. And they took offense at him. They stumbled on him. He's a stumbling block at a choking point. Why is that? They can't get it out of their mind. They saw this kid grow up. They know his family. They know his friends. We are his family. They're not going to let him escape from that little box that they want to keep him in. Then Jesus says this, a proverb. He says, Prophets are not without honor except in their own hometown and among their own kin and among their house. Stop. Again, we think of the suffering of Jesus, and you make a mistake if you limit it only to Holy Week, Oh, he's betrayed by Judas Iscariot, the Garden of Gethsemane, our picture up here, and there he's scourged, he's driven through the streets, he's forced to carry the cross, he's nailed to the cross, he suffers on the cross. Yeah, he suffered, that's true. But his suffering went on through his whole life, especially during his 3.5-year earthly ministry. Have you ever been betrayed by someone that you love? Someone that you thought you really knew? And it turns out you don't really know anybody. They have a complete secret life or something, and they betray you, and they reject. Well, guess what? That's what Jesus went through. He was betrayed by the people that loved him and knew him the closest. His own kin, his own family, like the people were, like right here. They're the ones that rejected Jesus. In the Gospel of Luke, it says, they drove him out to the edge of town, and they were going to stone him to death. That's more than just, we disagree with your opinion. No, we're going to kill you because of that. Amazing. And what's going on here? Why are they so hostile? Again, he doesn't fit in their box. It goes back to this again. Honor-shame society. In the ancient Near East, this is their premier social value. Honor-shame society. You see, Jesus brought shame to the family, clan, and tribe that lived in Nazareth. Why? Because he's doing things he's not supposed to do. He's outside of the box that they tried to put him in. He's bringing dishonor to the family, clan, and tribe of Nazareth. Honor, shame, society. It's an amazing thing. Now, would that have been a neuralgic issue for the early church? Yeah, it's a huge problem. Why is it a huge problem? Imagine this, you're Apostle Paul, you're going around the Mediterranean, you're telling Gentile people, that's non-Jews, about who Jesus is. You see, he's the real King David, he's the descendant of David, he's the Son of God, he rose from the dead, and then somebody in the back will put their hand up and go like this. Excuse me, Mr. Paul, you seem like a nice guy and everything. Why is it that Jesus, who's a Jew of the tribe of Judah, came here and his own family and his own tribe rejected him? Is that a problem? Yeah, his own people rejected him, but the Gentiles believed in him. Is that a huge problem? For the early church, this is one of the issues that Paul and the rest of them wrestled with for the entire New Testament. Jesus comes to his own people and they reject him. Now stop. If you were going to make up a story about Jesus, would you include this in the story? No, this is called the criterion of embarrassment in literary criticism. In other words, the fact that this is an embarrassing story that doesn't build up the Jesus case, the fact that it's an embarrassment and that Mark put it in, it's in Mark, it's in Luke, it's in John. The fact that this is an embarrassing story means this is a real story about Jesus. It's not some literary creation by Mark. This is not a story that you would put in there. If you're trying to push the argument forward, you want to say, and everybody loved Jesus and it was hearts and flowers and everything went happily ever after. No, he meets resistance. This is a really difficult story. And what does Jesus do then? It says he was amazed at their unbelief. Stop. See that word unbelief? The word unbelief is pistos. That's belief or faith, pistos. And you put an A in front of it. It means no faith, no belief. You know the word atheos, atheist? A is no, negation. Theos is God or gods. Apistos. Jesus looked at them and he's amazed at their unbelief. Stop. Who is he talking about? He's talking about the people back in Nazareth, but you could also apply it to people in our society right now at this moment. Look around you. We have it made. We have it made. We have air conditioning. We have electricity. We have cars that have 200 or 300 horsepower. We have antibiotics. We live longer than human beings have ever lived before in the history of the human race. Average people have we're more affluent now than most people have been through all of human history. We have it made. You can go to JFK Airport right now and get out of an airplane and be in India in 18 hours. I did it myself. And it's amazing. You're like, here you are in Rhinebeck, all of a sudden you're walking down the street in Chennai, India within 18 hours. It's an unbelievable thing. This is like space science fiction stuff, right? We have these iPhones, right? This is like a computer in the 1950s would be the size of this building, and it would have like maybe 1/10 of the computing power that your iPhone has in your pocket. This is like something out of Star Trek, right? And what do? We're ungrateful. We complain about how miserable we are. Oh, I'm so miserable. Oh, it's so horrible. I can't hardly stand it. Oh, I have such a difficult life. Oh, it's so awful. Yeah, isn't that true? People are so ungrateful. And rather than looking around and going, you know what? We live in the freest country that's in the history of the human race, the most affluent country. God has blessed us in every possible way. Instead, we look around and we complain and we mumble and murmur about it. What do you want? More stuff? Isn't it amazing? Right? Last night, Michelle brought Charlie to church, and Charlie's like running around, and you pick up a kid, right? Do this. You have like a kid around, pick up the kid and look at the little kid's foot. This is why I believe in God. When my daughter Haley was born, the first thing I did, I looked at her little foot, about this big, a little foot, and you look at the foot and you're like, that's an unbelievable thing. How is that possible? Charlie is 15 months old now, right? So 16 months ago, there was no Charlie, and all of a sudden, he's running around the church. A little foot, look at the little foot like that. What a work of art. It's an unbelievable thing, right? And we're so ungrateful. Why? Because again, we're looking down rather than looking up, right? Rather than saying we believe in the infinite God who created the universe, we're down here like this. Oh, my friend doesn't like me. He unfriended me. Ed, thank you. You unfriended. No, you know what I mean? This is what we're like. Oh yeah, life is all about who your friend is on Facebook. It's not about the God that created the cosmos. I mean, isn't that weird? We have like the world inverted and perverted, right? So Jesus looks at them and he's amazed by their unbelief. I don't know about you. When I stand before the judgment seat of Christ, I don't want Christ to say, I'm amazed at your unbelief. Right? In other words, you need to say, you want to hear Christ say, well done, good and faithful servant. Believe in the God who created the heaven and the earth. Believe in the Jesus who came to earth, the Word made flesh and dwelt among us. Jesus, right here, he died on the cross for our sins. And who does our include? It included his family, clan, and tribe in Nazareth that refused to believe in him. Think about that. That's who he came to die for. And what did we repay God with? We repay him with, I don't need no stinking God telling me what to do. I do whatever I want. And then we complain how bitter and how terrible we have it. Oh, we're oppressed and all kinds of stuff. It's like, it's unbelievable, right? So Jesus is astonished at their unbelief, right? Here, let me do a couple of very quick things. What's this? Jesus says a prophet is not honored in his own country. Stop. Does this mean that Jesus is only a prophet? No. Always fall back on your basic theology. Who is Christ? Prophet, priest, king. Threefold office of Christ. Just like you need to know about the death, burial, resurrection of Christ, the DBR, you need to know he's a prophet, he's a priest, he's a king. Islam thinks that he's only a prophet. Like if you were talking to an Islamic person, they would say, well, Jesus says that the prophets, therefore he's only a prophet. No, he's a prophet, right? But he's also the priest and the king. You can't just pick out the parts of Jesus that don't hurt your little feelings and agree with that. You have to believe in the whole Jesus. Prophet, priest, king. Okay? So he's saying that it's a typical Old Testament story, the Jewish story, where prophets are rejected by the people that know them the best. Therefore, I'm not surprised that this is what happened to me, right? And then again, the story begins and ends with the people reacting. They marvel, they're astonished at him, right? Again, this is the takeaway point. When you read the Bible, when you read about the life of Christ, develop an appetite for being astonished at what Jesus does, what God has done to us, that the blessings he had poured out upon us. Extremely important. Today, we've learned an interesting aspect about the life of Christ. We learned that he had a family, that he had friends, he had family, clan, tribe. He came from Nazareth. The Word became flesh and dwelt among us, and he was rejected. He was rejected, but we accept him and we believe in him. That's the essence of the Christian faith. Amen. Will the congregation please turn to our hymn of the day, hymn number 541 in the blue hymn book.
Okay, before we sing this, summertime is great for teaching music. Love it. Anyway, this tune, Jesus